What kind of person believes a key gives them the right to control someone else's life? HOA Karen thought she held all the power. Her master key glinting in the sunlight like a scepter of authority. She stood on our front porch, her broad frame blocking the morning light, her voice slicing through the quiet suburban air. "I'm the HOA president," she declared, her words dripping with self-righteous venom. "I can enter any home I please." My son, Daniel, just back from his second tour as a Marine, stood in the doorway, his jaw tight, his eyes steady. He didn't flinch, not even when she waved that key like a threat. This wasn't just about a key, it was about power, pride, and the kind of petty tyranny that festers in cul-de-sacs. HOA Karen had no idea who she was up against. We'd moved to Willow Creek 6 months ago, seeking peace after years of military life. Daniel, 24 and fresh from deployment, needed a place to heal, to find his footing. The neighborhood seemed perfect: tidy lawns, friendly waves, kids riding bikes. But HOA Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, had other plans. She'd been watching us from day one. Her eyes narrowed at our slightly overgrown grass, our mailbox that leaned just a hair too far left. She sent letters, left voicemails, even knocked on our door to lecture us about community standards. I tried to keep the peace, trimming the hedges, smiling through her snide comments. But Daniel, he saw through her. "She's not about rules, Mom," he'd said one night, his voice low. "She's about control." It started small. HOA caught wind of Daniel's motorcycle, parked neatly in our driveway, but apparently unsightly by her standards. She left a notice demanding it be moved to the garage. Daniel ignored it, earned that bike, saved for it through 2 deployments. And he wasn't about to hide it. Then came the fines, slipped under our door like poison pen letters. $50 for the bike, $20 for a flower pot she deemed non-compliant. I paid them, hoping to avoid trouble. But Daniel's patience was wearing thin. "She's testing us," he said, his hands clenched. "She thinks we'll just roll over." The real trouble came on a Saturday morning, the air thick with summer heat. I was in the kitchen when I heard Hoa's voice, sharp and commanding, outside. I peered through the window and saw her on our porch, her master key in hand, flanked by 2 nervous neighbors she'd roped into her crusade. She was ranting about inspections and violations, claiming she had the right to enter our home to check for unapproved paint colors. Daniel, still in his PT gear, opened the door before I could stop him. "You're not coming in," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. HOA scoffed, holding up her key. "This says I can." That's when I knew this wasn't about paint or rules, it was personal. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Years in the Marines had taught him how to command a room without shouting. He stepped forward, just enough to make HOA take a half step back. "That key doesn't give you the right to barge into our home," he said. "You want to talk violations? Let's talk about you abusing your power." The neighbors shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between HOA and Daniel. Hoa's face reddened, her voice climbing. "I'm protecting this community. You're the ones disrespecting it." But Daniel wasn't fazed. He pulled out his phone, already recording. "Say that again," he said. "Tell me how you're protecting us by threatening to break into our house." The twist came when one of the neighbors, a quiet man named Tom who'd always kept his head down, spoke up. "She did this to me last year," he said, his voice shaking but firm. "Tried to find me for my kid's treehouse. said she'd inspect my backyard herself. The air shifted, like a crack forming in Hoas armor. Tom's wife, Ellen, nodded, her hands trembling. She told us we'd lose our home if we didn't comply. Daniel's eyes never left Hoas' face, but I saw the spark in them the moment he realized this wasn't just our fight. Hoas' reign of terror wasn't new. She'd been bullying the whole neighborhood, hiding behind her title and that damn key. Hoa tried to recover, her voice shrill now. You're all ungrateful. I keep this place perfect. But the tide was turning. Daniel kept his phone steady, capturing every word. You're not a landlord, he said. You're a volunteer. You don't get to play dictator. I stepped onto the porch, my heart pounding, and added, we're not your subjects. Hoa. This is our home. For a moment, she looked like she might explode, her fingers tightening around the key. Then she turned on her heel, muttering threats about lawyers and fines, and stormed off. The neighbors stayed, their faces a mix of relief and fear. Tom whispered, thank you, before slipping away with Ellen. I looked at Daniel, his shoulders still squared, and felt a surge of pride. He wasn't just my son who was a protector. But Hoa wasn't done. She doubled down, sending a flurry of emails to the HOA board, accusing us of hostile behavior and demanding a formal hearing. She claimed Daniel's recording was illegal, that his military attitude intimidated her. The neighbors started whispering, some siding with her out of fear, others quietly cheering us on. I worried we'd pushed too far, that she'd find a way to make our lives hell. Daniel, though, was calm. She's scared, he said. Bullies always are when you call their bluff. He spent hours researching HOA bylaws, digging into state laws about property rights. He found her Achilles heel. Her precious master key wasn't even legal under the HOA's own rules. She'd been using it to intimidate, not enforce. The hearing was set for a Tuesday evening at the community center, a sterile room buzzing with tension. Hoa sat at the head of the table, her face a mask of smug confidence, her key placed prominently in front of her like a badge of honor. The board, a mix of her loyalists and a few neutral members, listened as she spun her tale of victimhood. She painted Daniel as a loose cannon, a threat to the community's harmony. I felt my stomach twist as she spoke, her words twisting the truth into something ugly. But Daniel was ready. He stood, his voice steady, and laid out the facts, the illegal key, the baseless fines, the neighbors she'd bullied into silence. He played the recording, her own words echoing through the room. This key says I can. The room went silent. Then Tom stood up, his voice stronger now. She fined me for my daughter's bike last month. Said it was clutter. I paid because I was scared. Ellen followed. Then another neighbor. Then another. The stories poured out petty fines, threats, unannounced inspections. Hoa's face drained of color, her hands fumbling with her key as if it could save her. The board chair, a retired lawyer named Margaret, leaned forward. Mrs. Nguyen, did you use this key to enter homes without consent? Hoa stammered, her usual bravado gone. 2 was ensuring compliance. Margaret's eyes narrowed. That's not your job. The collapse came swiftly. Margaret called for a vote to remove Hoa as HOA president, citing abuse of power. The board, swayed by the neighbors' testimonies and Daniel's evidence, voted unanimously. Hoa sat frozen, her key now just a piece of metal in her hand. She tried to argue, her voice rising in desperation. But the room had turned against her. "You can't do this," she shouted. But no one listened. The neighbors, once cowed by her threats, stood together, their voices a quiet chorus of defiance. HOA gathered her papers and stormed out, leaving her key behind on the table. It lay there, abandoned, a symbol of her fallen empire. In the days that followed, the neighborhood exhaled. Tom and Ellen invited us over for coffee, their gratitude palpable. Other neighbors started speaking up, sharing stories of HOA's overreach, their relief mingling with a newfound sense of community. The HOA elected Margaret as interim president, and she wasted no time revising the bylaws to prevent future abuses. No more master keys. No more unilateral fines. Daniel, ever the Marine, didn't gloat. He just nodded and said, "It's not about winning. It's about doing what's right." I watched him over those weeks, saw the way he carried himself strong, steady, but never cruel. He'd faced worse than HOA Karen in war zones, but he'd brought the same courage to our little corner of Willow Creek. I thought about the boy he'd been, the one who'd enlisted at 18, promising to make me proud. He had, in ways I couldn't have imagined. This wasn't just about a key or a bully, it was about standing up for what's yours. For your home, your dignity. It was about showing that power doesn't come from a title or a piece of metal. It comes from heart, from principle, from the quiet strength to say, "Enough." The neighborhood changed after that. People started talking more, helping each other out. The kids rode their bikes again, unafraid of HOA's watchful glare. Daniel's motorcycle stayed in the driveway, gleaming under the sun, a small act of defiance that felt like victory. One evening, as we sat on the porch, I asked him why he'd fought so hard. He looked out at the street, the golden light catching his face. "Because home is supposed to be safe, Mom," he said. "If we don't protect it, who will?" I felt tears prick my eyes, not just for him, but for all of us who'd found our voices again. HOA Karen had tried her master key, but she'd underestimated the strength of a Marine and the power of a community that refused to bow.